Screencast 11, Introduction to Data Methods. In the last screencast, I showed you that I added these two columns called upper name and cuss group 2. Let's preview them. And if you recall, what I did was upper name used an expression to transform the value of this field into uppercase. And in cuss group 2, I multiplied the cuss group value by 3. Okay? And I used expressions to do that. And expressions, again, are values in this expression field on one of these data nodes. What I'm going to show you in this screencast are how to calculate values using data methods. Right? Let's do something very simple. First, let me get rid of these two values, upper name and cuss group 2. Let me preview just to make sure they're gone. And they are. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use a data method to change the value of the title, right? So first, let's change it with just a normal, simple expression, right? We'll say equals foo plus bar. And let me put quotes there. And preview foo bar. Perfect. And this is an expression. I'll open up the expression editor. And what's interesting here is that what is the syntax used for these expressions? It's actually VB.NET. And that's a language, personally, that I often do not like to use. I prefer to use C#, of course. And the question is, how can I call a method here? Like, I want to write C# code, not VB code. How can I call a method that I can use and show as a value there? And the answer is simple. We use something called a data method. There are many uses of data methods. And in this use, I'm going to show you how to make one and how to get the value from the data method and show it in the report in the title. In a future screencast, I'll show you how to get values and show them in the fields in a table in a data region. But for now, we'll just stick to the title. So first thing we need to do is create a data method. And we'll go to the data methods node, right-click, and add a data method. And so one's been created, and I'm going to right-click and show you the menus. There are these refactors, view and model view, view code, and I'll go ahead and just view code. And you can see that an actual C# method was created, right? And there are these attributes, which is this data method attribute and AX session permission. So these are needed for something to be a data method. Notice that it's a static method that returns a string and is on this report, right? And I'll go ahead and just close it and just build it. I'll save everything and build, and everything worked fine. If there had been an error in syntax, you would have seen an error down here. So if I right-click again, I'll do view code there. Let's actually rename this method. I'll go refactor to, let's see, get special title. And whenever I do such a refactoring, I always try to save and rebuild because you want to make sure the code's going to compile. There isn't some sort of weird mistake. Now, by default, these will just throw an exception saying the thing is not implemented. Let's go ahead and do something interesting. A very simple thing. We'll take a string, s equals new, string dot format. Oops, not new, just string dot format. And we'll say hello world, and I'll use a little insertion there. Let's say 1 plus 2. That's going to be, okay? So it should say hello world 3, and I'll return that. Return S. Okay, fair enough. Let's build. Okay, no errors, perfect. Now if we preview, I haven't changed anything, so it still says foobar. That was the title of the expression. How do I change it to use the data method? It's very simple, actually. We'll go back to the report. We'll go to title, and I'll click on the expression editor. And we could just type this manually, but it's easier to see me do it in this expression editor. Notice that one of our extensions to the report editing experience in Visual Studio adds this node called data methods, and you'll see that data method there, right? So I'll just double click it, and then, oops, yep, I'll just call it. And now what this means is this equal sign is going to call that C# method at runtime. Let's make sure we can build everything and preview. There we go. Hello World 3. So again, this is an example of how you call some .NET code and can return some value that's used in the report. And in this case, I've just used it in the title. Later on, I'm going to use it to get values in a data region. Now, one more thing that's interesting here is to understand what the output of this is, because an RDL file doesn't contain this code. This is actually an assembly that's going to get built. Just to prove that to you, let's take some time and look at this node we haven't talked about much before. In samples library, you'll see this thing called business logic. We'll expand, and you can see there's a file called report1.businesslogic.cs, right? And that's where this data method actually is. Let me close that. And that's the first interesting thing you have to keep in mind, that often we interchangeably use the phrase data methods in business logic, right? And the reason the word business logic is used is we often expect code that's specific to the report to be implemented here as business logic. Not everything is technically business logic. Sometimes you just have these like helper functions. They would also appear in this node. But you should be aware of that. Business logic essentially means what data methods are in the report. So when we deploy this report, you'll get an RDL file, but this business logic will also be built into a .NET assembly. And let's go ahead and take a look at Report Manager, right? And you'll see, of course, that here you just see this is the RDL file, right? Where is the business logic assembly? Well, you can't see it here, so we'll have to open up the actual program files, and we'll go find under Microsoft SQL Server, under MSRS 10.5, Reporting Services, Report Server bin. Take a look here. There's all sorts of DLLs here, and you should see, you'll see some of our Microsoft Dynamics things here, right here. Microsoft, this was a previous business logic thing that I'd deployed. Now what we're going to do is we're going to deploy the solution, and we're going to look for samples library there. So deploy started in lower left. And it said deployment failed. And why was that? I am actually not sure. Let me just try it again. Still waiting. And what's happening during this step is, again, that the RDL is being generated and the DLLs are being copied. Okay, now it worked. Let's take a look. We should see somewhere here. There we go. Samples library.businesslogic.dll, and that contained the code that was in this file. Okay, so to recap, I've shown you how to create a data method. I've shown you how to rename a data method. I've shown you how to calculate a value data method and show it in the report as the title. And then finally, I've shown you how to deploy the report with business logic, which is just the same as if it didn't have business logic. Just click deploy, and I've shown you where that business logic gets placed on the report server. Okay, and that's it for now. Next time I'll show you how to use a data method to show data in a data region. Okay.